Hi everyone, my name is John Alexis Guerra Gomez, and in this video hopefully I'm going to demonstrate how to set up a working environment or development environment for creating front-end applications. This is just the setup that I like, and it's quite useful because it has linting with ESLint. Also helps you having things like Prettier, that no matter how bad your code is, just by saving, everything goes nicely and very clearly formatted depending on what you want. And also other things like having emmet, that it's a way simpler plugin, but it's quite helpful for creating HTML pages and things like that. Like for instance, let me create a test in here. And then when I create the test, just by using shortcuts like this, I can create a simple page um, with nice formatting and everything. So my students usually complain that when they try to do that on Windows, it's quite complicated. So I'm going to try to demonstrate that here using this virtual machine. So I just have a bare bones Windows machine here, and let's see how it works. So you're going to require, or you're going to need to download Sublime Text for Windows. So you just can go and search for Sublime Text. It's going to take you to this page, and then click on this download button. And then you're also going to need Node installed on your machine. So I recommend you using the LTS version. In this case, for at the moment of this recording, is 12.14.1. Okay. So of course I already have downloaded that. I have an idea where I put it. Let's try to see if I can see them. So I'm going just to install the two things. Here is the installer for Node. We are going to accept the terms because we have read them, of course. Not really. And then here is the regular setup. This is quite important. This add to path is going to be very useful later. I'm going to show you everything else about that. If you want to be able to install such models, blah, blah, blah. That sounds interesting, so I'm going to add it and then install. So now it's asking me for permissions. I'm going to say yes. Meanwhile, let's try doing the same with Sublime Text, although Windows might complain because it doesn't allow for two things. Do you want this thing to do updates? We want them. This thing is running. So let's start doing that. Explore context menu. That sounds good. Let's install it. Sublime Text 3. Blah, blah, blah. Good. So now I can finish here. I can finish there. Tools for Node.js. This script will install Python and the Visual Studio tools. These are compile Node.js native models. Let's accept that. I have now installed that here. Python 2. I don't really want Python 2, so I'm going to finish this. Because I also have Anaconda, as you see here. I'm also going to start running that, and hopefully it won't take too much. And I'm going to explain in a minute why I want Anaconda. I do want Anaconda in my path. This output makes Anaconda get found previously installed path, make those programs require install. Interesting. I don't know what to do there. Anyhow, so remember, I'm usually doing this on Mac or Linux machines. So I'm just throwing myself out here with Windows just to try to see how it works. So the good news is that hopefully we should have already Sublime Text. It comes bare bones with something like this on register. I recommend you paying for it as the developer needs support. And then we are going to start installing things to that. So while Anaconda is installing here in the background, the first thing we need is to be able to run commands. So Sublime has a command palette that is quite useful. So I don't know if it is described right here. Is this thing in here? The command palette, so you can run with that. And then you also have package control, and that's what we want. So if you go here, then you see you can install this thing. Let's say how to do it. So you just open the command palette and run install package control. So let's do that. Oops. We need to do that here on Windows. So it's Control-Shift-P for the command palette, or just here, command palette, in tools command palette, and then install package control. So we hit enter in there, and then it tells us that it has been successfully installed. So good for that. And now we can start installing packages. So before that, something else that I really like, it's being able to run Sublime directly from the console. So usually I want to be able to run something like this. I wonder if I can make, oops, this bigger, and then I'm just showing in there. That's the problem of not being used to Windows. But sorry if this thing is not big enough. Don't know how to make it bigger. Large, cursor size, no, buffer size, font, 24 maybe. That kind of works. Anyhow, so what I was saying is that I want to be able to enter here, and then if I have a folder in there where I'm creating a new project, and like here, let's go to the desktop and trying to create something in there. Or I wonder if, because this is VMware, if that's going to work. I'm going to call it test. If I show this here, of course it's not there. Let's see if I see that other desktop. I have no idea where that is. So where do I find that here on these windows? Let's try around here. And then users, and desktop. And now here, I'm going to create a folder called test. And the whole idea is that I can get into that desktop and then get into that folder and then start running Sublime from there. So for doing that, let's see how we can do that here on Windows. So actually, I think the key is going here on Z. If we see where Sublime was installed, that will be this folder. You can see this is the executable that we want. However, this is not on our path, that it's an environment variable that allows us to run whatever commands we want in the command line, depending on what URLs you have in there. So we need to add that to the path. So I'm not an expert on Windows, but maybe let's try going to the control panel, especially on other versions of Windows that was easier. So let's search environment variables. So just by searching for that in there, so this is what I wrote, environment variables, and then I want to edit this. So when you do that, come back to me. Should open this window, and in that window you can see here are the environment variables for the system. So we want to edit this one, that is the path, and then we want to add in there a new path that is going to be, the one that we just copied, that is Sublime Text. So after doing that, it's very important that you restart your command line. So I'm running that just by saying command in here. And then I'm going back to my desktop, to the folder I had, and then running Sublime, and of course it doesn't work. I wonder if I need to do anything else. Oh, maybe I didn't accept this. So let's try that. And one more time. Command line, and now still not working. Let's see what the path is showing. Still no idea how to do that on Windows. I wonder if that PowerShell thingy will help. So let's see over here, Windows PowerShell, and then that one doesn't. Oh, that's too much magnification. Now how do I close this? Just running this, okay. And then will this respect my commands? Kind of. Sublime is not recognized. Let's see what this is saying once more time. Edit here. Didn't work. That's funny. Try adding that again. Okay. Edit. Now it's in there. That was funny. So let's try this once more. Command line. Command line, and then Sublime. And now we have Sublime running from there. So all of that was to be able to do this. So now I can start a project in here, and then I can start creating my files, like for instance, and save this as my index.html, but I still cannot use this trick. So for that one, we want to install Emmet. So you can install that just by going Tools, Command Palette. And then now that we have package control, we can install packages. So I'm going to install a package, and we want to install Emmet. So that one is easier. This is telling us that it's running. You have to make sure that this thing in here, it's saying that we are running HTML. So, and then after that, just by using the shortcut, you can get that running. So that's the first step. That's the easy part. Now, for the more complicated parts, ESLint, it's a little bit more difficult. You need to make sure that Node is already installed. So I'm going to try to see if I can run it for now. Yes, I can. So it's telling me it's version 12.14.1. And I want to install packages. So for that, there is a package manager from Node that it's called npm. And I can use it to install packages. And I'm going to install a package called ESLint. So the -g means that it's going to be installed globally. So you actually want that. So ESLint is always available in the whole system. Although in some cases you also want that for specific projects. So I'm going to try to see to make it work with both of them. And as you saw already, since I'm on a different operating system, I might get a lot of errors. So while this thing is installing, let's go here to Sublime, and then the other thing we want to install here will be, how do I make, there we go, is to install the connection between Sublime and the linter. So, and now I got this zoom again. So I'm going to install a new package. So again, install package, and that package is going to be called Sublime Linter. And that's the basic package for linting, and then that can be configured to many different linters. And again, a linter is just a program that is going to check your code for errors, which is quite useful. It's the thing that what I have in here, whenever I make a mistake, if I, for instance, let's say I do something like this, I wonder if it will lint it here, like this telling me, although this might be only Sublime, but here on JavaScript, if I make a mistake, like writing something like this, immediately tells me there is an error. So that's what we want. So we want the connection between Sublime Linter and ESLint. So basically the one you want is this one, Sublime Linter ESLint. So let me show you how my packages look like so far. So I have Emmet, Sublime Linter, and Sublime Linter ESLint. Okay? And now we are going to get into a lot of trouble because we need to let Sublime know where to find ESLint. So if I come in here and I'm going to create a new file, I'm going to save this as main.js, so it knows that it's a JavaScript file, and then let's start writing some code in there. So what I want, it's something like this, and if I create a class like this, or just a simple function, it should be doing all the checking. So I don't want Siri in there, so let's create a function, test, and then return 0 or whatever. Okay, so by the way, the other thing I just noticed is this thing. So right now it's using tabs for creating like the different indentations, and I don't like that. So the way I fix that is if we go here on the preferences, it's in a different part on Windows, and then here on the package settings, or actually in the regular settings, we can make this bigger, make this a little bit smaller. You can search here for, with Control F, tab size. So this option, we want to make that smaller. So I'm going to add that into my options here to be only 2. And then I also want to translate tabs to spaces. So I like setting that to true too. The other thing I like is deleting extra space. Oops, I got an error in there that I should pay attention. But let's see if at least I can get this one changed. So I'm going to save that, and now you can see I only have 2 spaces. I'm also going to save this and close it and open it again. And then you still see that this is still tabs, The new files that I create shouldn't have that, but if you have a file that already have tabs, you can also go again into the palettes and then say convert tabs to spaces. So I like this, and now you can see with the dots that we are using spaces now. So that's my common setup. So let's create or actually delete this file and create a new one just to see if that thing is working, main.js, and then I'm going to create a function, you can see now that we have spaces, so that's good. So next thing will be to get Sublime Linter to work in here. So I should be seeing an error in there. And you can see in a very small thing here. Let's see if I can get that annoying. I cannot get it when I want it. So, but if you see down here, it says there is an error. I'm also actually going to see here to say that I want to see the show console or the show console errors. So this helps me a little bit more to see what's happening. So right now here it's telling me that I don't have a configuration file. So actually it did found ESLint, that's nice, but I don't have a configuration file. So we can now go and fix that. So go back to the terminal here, and now I'm going to create a configuration file. For that, I first need to tell ESLint that this is a JavaScript project. So for that, we can initialize this using npm init -y. What that thing does is that it creates a file called package.json that identifies this is a project of JavaScript. Usually you want to change these things to add your own description, your author, so you can say this is by John, what is the license that you're using, whatever. And it also contains many other things that are useful, like for instance, what is your script and how you run it and things like that. So for the moment, I'm just going to save this. Notice how everything is now two tabs and it's only with spaces. So that's the way I like it. So now that we have this, now we want to create the configuration file for ESLint. Again, I exited my windows. So for doing that, it's a new command that it's ESLint -- in this case, init. And let's run it like that. So when you run that, you're running a script that is going to create configuration files. You have many options in there. We want to check syntax, find problems, and enforce as code style. So let's do that. I like saving that as a JavaScript file, but this actually is asking us if we are going to be importing and exporting. It all depends. If you're just using vanilla JavaScript, choose this one. If you're using React or any ES6 that are the latest versions of JavaScript, we can use import-export. In this case, let's say that we are going to be using React. If you're just doing basic JavaScript, just say none of this. So I'm just going to choose that. I am not using TypeScript. I actually don't like it. It's my preference. If you're working on the browser or Node, in this case only for the browser, you can choose also your own style guide or choose a popular style guide. I usually like creating my own. So I'm going to answer questions about that. This is the one I was mentioning. I like saving it as JavaScript. I like using spaces for indentation, and I'm weird. Everyone uses single quotes, but I prefer using double quotes, so I can use lets or things like that inside my strings. And I actually don't know what to do here, if it should be Windows or Unix. So I'm actually going to try with Unix and see what happens. And I am going to require semicolons, yes. So it seems like I got an error in here saying that I don't have this package. So I'm actually going to install the packages that allow me to compile for React. So for that, we do it the same way. npm install -g, and then we are going to install ESLint plugin React. So by doing that, this is going to allow us to have that globally. Although for this specific project, now that we have a package JSON, we can create all of that as dependencies for this. So let's save this and open this once more. We want this to save, and let's open the main.js file once more. And now it's telling me that there is an error, something went wrong with Sublime Linter. So it's saying that it cannot find the plugin. So actually, let's try installing that locally. And let's stay here. So I'm going to install that inside this project. So I'm actually going to say minus minus save dev, because this is a development requirement, and I'm going to put the Eslint there too. So when I just do that, then this is going to create here on my package JSON a new entry that says dependencies that includes those in there. So actually it's downloading that, it's putting that into the node modules folder, and now I have a dependencies that says this. So let's go back to this and close this, open this thing again, and still, oh, and now it's working. So it's like magic. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So that's good. The only problem is that it's complaining about my tab spaces. So I can actually come here into the file. This is the Eslint configuration file. Here you can change all of the things you want on how you want it to work. So I actually like putting 2 in here and for it to tell me that there are some errors. So when you do that, if I go and open my main.js file now, now it should be telling me that this function is not being used. So I can actually use the function just to remove that error. And then I only have the other error, that is this one. So far so good. This is another setup. Something else that I like having, it's a way of checking if this thing is working. So I'm actually going to complete this example just by putting my main.js file here. And let's come here into the main.js and just say something stupid like alert hola mundo or whatever. And then we want to see if this project is working. So the way that you can test for that, like many people on Windows, the way it will work, they will think it will work, is just by going into the project. In this case, I put it in the desktop, sorry, so hidden in there. And then you see everything here. And they will just double click on this, and then it's kind of working. But if you are downloading files or doing something more complex, it will not work. So in order for you to test that, and this is the reason why I wanted to install Python, is that if you only have Python installed, and let's check, of course it's not working. Let's maybe close this and see if running again, because I was just installing Anaconda. Maybe it's set up, it didn't. So that's the option that it was checking when I was installing. So actually, let me see where Anaconda is installed. I'm trying to find it. So doesn't seem to be here. Maybe here. Not. I don't see directly on this PC. Maybe on this one. Python Internet Explorer. Actually, some people have told me that there is like this a console for Anaconda. I wonder if there is a way directly in there for asking them to run these things. And how do I find on Windows where is my Anaconda? That's quite interesting. Users. Oh, it seems that it's inside my folder. I think I saw in there in Eslint. So here is Anaconda 3. So I can see the conda file in there, and this is what we want. So since this is what we want, we are going to add that into our path. So I'm going just to copy this and then go back again into my settings and then check the environment variables here and then modify the path so we can add Anaconda. That is what they offer at the installation, but I refused. So that seems dangerous for them for some reason. I don't know why. So I'm going to close it. No, I don't want to improve. Sorry about that. Sorry, don't improve again. So let's close this. Yes, probably there is an easier way of doing that, but this should work. Let's run the command again. Do I have Python now? Yes. So now I can go into my desktop, and all of this is just for you to run a local web server. So if you want that running, so in this case I have Python -m, and since I have Python 3, it's using this command. And we are running the module http.server. and then you can tell it in what port you want to run it. So when you run that, it says that if you want to allow it to create a new port, so I'm going to allow that on Windows. On Mac, that usually doesn't happen. And then you have this thing here, that is the URL at which it is running. So usually I actually don't see how to copy that here, so I'm going just to put it manually. HTTP, and it's 0.0.0:8080, which is the port that you added manually. And of course, it's not working. I wonder if I have to do something else, like maybe run it like this, localhost 8080, and that seems better. Maybe it will work. Here, oops, I put this too small. Yes, so now you can see, I can actually see my program. So that's the way you run it if you only have Python. So basically, the whole idea is that you just run this command, and then it's going to be running on this URL that says localhost 8080, okay? So whatever changes you make in here, I guess I can put this here, and then let me put Sublime in here, and then if I start doing like creating something here, like Hola Mundo example or whatever, and I save this, if you just refresh in here, which should be done with command Control-Shift-R or Control-Shift-F5, then you can start seeing the changes, okay? So as you can see, it's complaining about these alerts, so I'm going to remove that. So, whatever. The other way of running this is with Node, because since we already have Node installed, then there are other modules that are actually quite useful. And there is one that I really like, and now I don't see, yes, that it's called Reload. So I can install that again with npm install, -g, and then reload. And then remember, this is for installing it globally. And there is another one called HTTP server that it's simpler. It doesn't have a feature that you're going to see in a second. So I'm going to install it too, just to demonstrate both of them. And of course, my shortcuts from Mac doesn't work here. So let's see if I can get it here. So it's searching for the package. Meanwhile, while this thing installs, or it doesn't take too long. Yes, good. So if it's not taking that long, then I'm going to show you with HTTP server. So the way you run it is just by saying HTTP server, and then it's same thing, allow access. It's also running on 8080, and then if I refresh here, I get the same thing. So same old. So if I just go here and create like a list item with 3 of them or something like that, I can actually, I wonder what is the shortcut for doing that in Windows. Doesn't work. So let's create this here. Other John, and cool. And then when I save this, if I come here, just say Command-Shift-R, then I see the changes. So this is more reliable, and it doesn't include extra stuff. But there is the other one that it's called Reload is actually quite nice because, and then I can stop this using Control-C, just by saying reload -b. And this is saying I'm going to store the server reload with -b, which is creating or starting a web browser. So when you do that, you can see that it immediately starts a new page. So it's even convenient like in that way. And the other cool stuff is that if I create a new div in here and put some text, and the moment I save that, and if it's of course not working on Windows for some reason, at least on Mac, it updates automatically. But that's another option that you can use. Okay. So all of that is just for starting the web server. Now, the other problem is that, remember that thing that I had where I could just break this, and when I save it, it goes and makes it better. So that's not working here. Let's see if this works now that I saw something there. Works. So actually it worked there. So when I make the change, it's weird. It only works when it wants. Anyhow, so I want this to actually reformat nicely. So Sublime has a way of doing that. If you start your command palette and then you say reindent, it will try doing some, but as you can see, it's not really working very well. So there is yet another package called Prettier. And Prettier is quite cool. It actually works very well with React or other stuff. but I have found it a little bit difficult to configure. So let me show you how I did it. So this is a package that works with Node. So if you see here in the Getting Started page, it's telling you that you can use yarn or npm install to install it into your machine. So we can actually install that locally or globally as we had before. So let me stop this thing so we can copy and paste this. So now it's going to be part of my project. Remember that when you do save dev, or in this case save exact, that actually you don't know what save exact is doing, here is actually adding Prettier for me. So when I do that, now I need to tell Sublime that I want to run Prettier here. So I think apart from that, I can now run it from the console, but maybe there is some information in here. So command line interface, I can run it from the command, so that it's something, but probably there is an explanation in here on how to run it with your editor here. So editor integration. I wonder if there is a specific way. Yes. So as you can see here on Sublime Text, it is saying that you can just run it with the Prettier plugin. So if we go to that page, it's going to be the same thing. Just open the package control and install it from there. So it's saying you need to add that and then install that on package control. So all of that is documented. It's just that usually you get lost and don't know. So I'm just showing you step by step how it works. So I'm going to install that. Again, Control Shift P, and that opens the command palette. That also you can open Tool, command palette, and then you say install Prettier, install package, and then hit enter, and after that you can search for Prettier, and then it's telling me that it was installed successfully, that you need to add that, and then you can just run Prettier format code, and let's see if that works. So I can run Control Shift P, and then search for Prettier format code, and it actually works. Now, sometimes there is a problem though, because when you create like some more elaborated code like this, like Prettier starts conflicting with ESLint. So something else I found is that you can configure ESLint to support Prettier. So it might be described here, but I'm actually going to show you. Let's see if we can make it work. That's done by installing another package called ESLint Prettier, config Prettier, I think it's called, config Prettier. So just by doing that, it allows you to create like the defaults for Prettier. So you can come here on your ESLint file, and then now we can tell it that we want to, I think is right here on the extensions, that we actually we want to extend Prettier as the default. Okay, so now that we do this, I wonder if this will work. So it's kind of working there, but the final step of all of this will be making it so that it can be run after you save your file. So I think that's on the preferences here, package setting, Prettier, that's what we're changing, and settings defaults. And if you come here, let's check the options. Usually, if you have problems finding your node, you might want to change these attributes in here. I was actually expecting something like that, and here is what I want. So I actually want this to be true. I wonder if I can change it directly, and then I can now break this, and it's telling me there is an error. Let me close that, and actually maybe close Sublime, open that again. Now it opened two of them. Let's see, main.js here, and then save. It's not running Prettier, so let's try it again. I think it might be here where I need to put it. So save, auto format on save, it might be this one. And then on here, on the package settings, Prettier user, I want this to be true, and I think this is a JavaScript object, so it should be something like this, I think. Let me show the console so I can make sure that this thing is working, and then if I save this, maybe open it again, it's still not running on save. Let's try closing Sublime and then open it again. Save this, still not working. There's something wrong here with the Prettier. Auto format on save. Reloading plugin. Save this. I wonder if there is a reload extensions and Sublime linter and its plugins. If I saved it, it's still not saving. That's weird. So if it is working, if I run it manually, but for some reason when I start creating something here, like let's start creating like a variable or something like that, a equals 1, and if I save it, still not working. What can we do for that? Automatically format your file on save. It is like that. Wonder if there is another option for that. Excludes advanced save requires pretty config true. To format and save. I have no idea what else to do to make this thing work. Let's maybe search online just to try to get that working. Sublime, Prettier, on save. Maybe there is an extra option for that. On save. That's what I want, but for some reason it's not working. Examples, JSON. I wonder if it has something to do with restarting Windows. That will be really weird, but let's give it a try. Oh no, this thing is doing an update, so I will not risk it. So, yeah, sorry, that one doesn't like it. So let's try this. Come on. What else can I be missing here? Let me check on my configuration here, and that will be, let's get out of my settings, GSPrettier settings for the user. I have it in there, and I actually needed to put where is my Prettier path here. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. So it's running that. Eslint is not having any issues. Reloading settings. Problem is, even if I try on save, true, save that. Yeah, there is something that I am missing, or maybe, wonder, no, it's still not working. Yeah, sorry about that. So I'm actually missing that one. I'm going to try to search, and if I find a solution, I will come back on this. What else do I need for this? It's actually try to create a React project and just try to see if it will format this nicely. So I'm going to create a React app called Test React. And speaking of React, there is also a couple other packages that I find useful for being able to use React shortcuts. So right, this thing now is creating a new project when it's installing React DOM scripts, templates, etc. The other one, it's called Babel something. So let's try searching for that. And then Babel, here is Babel snippets. We also want Babel, so we can run ES6 and then install package, and we are going to install Babel snippets. So just by having that, we can also start creating modules faster. So this thing still hasn't finished. What else? Let me come here. React Sublime. I remember they also have. Yes, this is the one we want. So this is the one that we just installed. This is the other thing. Every time you open a new file, make sure to have this thing on the syntax. And for this, you also might want to use these color schemes, which are quite useful for formatting JSX, like things like this. So going to see if this thing finished. Sorry, I was checking on the wrong one. Come on, change here. Come on, you're really slow. It might be because I'm running this for the first time. So for the moment, actually going to come back here into desktop and then test. Now open Sublime once more inside that. Going to open this file, and then the other option they were saying in there, it's where was that? Sorry about that. So it's in syntax. Sublime. Where is the syntax here? Projects, Windows, Preferences, Font, Tools. Ooh, I forgot where is that thing. Maybe View. Yes, here. So actually open all of this with here, Babel, JavaScript Babel. So now you should see this thing here. So that should help us. So when we are creating a React file, let's check if this thing has finished. Not yet. Usually you will be doing something like import, I think is like this, React from React, and then you can start creating a module that is just a function. So this is my component. You can make that something like this. Oops. I'm definitely not used to Windows shortcuts, so put that here. And then I'm just going to create a function like this, and you want to return like a specific div or something like that. Take a look at what I just did in there. Is that when you want to autocomplete those things, you just say Control E on inside that. And then if you want to create like a header, Control E, and then we can say John or whatever as usual. And then I can just say export component as my default. Okay. So as you can see, this thing it was actually complaining about React. Now that I exported that thing, it's working better. You can also run GS Prettier here to make it look better. Like for instance, once more, Prettier, format the code, and then it shows you that more nicely. It'll even added like these extra things in here just to guarantee that I have extra spaces in case you want that. And let's see the other thing, that was the color scheme, and I think we can do that using preferences, color scheme, Babel. So preferences, color scheme, and we want to use Babel maybe. like maybe this Monokai or Next. It's up to you which one you like better. So in this case, I'm going to go with Monokai, and it's telling me that I have an error here, so that doesn't look that good. Oh, take a look, this is still loading that as JavaScript. Let me close that and open this once more. Now it's open as Babel, and it's looking better. So I have that part running. Let me make sure if this thing finished. Yes, it did. So let me finish this here, and then just say yarn start, so I can, of course, yarn is not installed. So I'm going to install yarn. I think this is the way of installing yarn. We don't remember anymore. Yarn start. There we go. So now it's going to start a development server. And apart from that, I'm going to go into the other terminal, and I'm going to get into the test React. Of course, I didn't put it into the. I wonder where I put it. The test React here. Yes, sorry about that. I open Sublime in there. Now you can see this thing has all of my projects, and I can see my application here. Let's put this to the left, and again, I'm completely lost on Windows shortcuts. I actually don't want this to be full screen. Put this here to the left, and then here is my React app on the right. And finally, I can start creating my stuff in here, like Sean or whatever. And when I save, usually this thing saves at the same time. This should also work on finding errors with Eslint. Of course, stop working. There we go. So now it's telling me the error. And the only thing that I am missing is my perlier. So I wonder if it has anything to do with the perlier config. So I'm going to check that. Configuration file. Per RC, this means you can configure precedence. I wonder how to create a configuration file like that. You can choose variables, eslint override format, sharing configurations, company, set the parser. I don't want to copy and paste just one of those. I think I saw when I was looking at Perlier's settings, here there was an option that said tune save, auto format from save, it's good. And I think these are the excludes. Auto formats require config file. Let's stop that. Config file is resolved first by checking And let's do that, and then save this. Of course, it's not working. Let's try again. Stupid on save is not working. Prettier not found. Okay, that's better. So now it's telling me that I don't have that, so I want to tell it where is Prettier, but it's funny that the other one works. So I'm actually going to go here into preferences, package settings, GS Prettier, and then we need to change this Prettier CLI path. So I'm going to find this ignore path here. So usually you want something like this. So we want the path for on Windows. So we are going to search for that here. So let me make sure that we can find that Prettier, and I have no idea where to find Prettier on Windows. So speaking with a student before, there's this command is supposed to work. Do I have this? It's not working, of course. Oh, I see. Maybe if I install Prettier globally, it will be able to find it. Let's see. Oh, sorry. Prettier. Yes, so that one is working now. Let's close this. I don't want that. That one is not working yet. Let me close Sublime and open that once more, maybe starting from here, so it can know where to find it, and save this. Yes, beautiful. So finally it worked. So it seems like Prettier wasn't working. I'm guessing the changes that I made that made it work was, and the problem is that depending on your installation, you can get into different problems. So that's why I made this really long video for that. So I have autosave here, true, and then I also changed this to false. I wonder if that was what made the trick. If I save now, yes, it seems like I need to have that other one, or you need to have a specific config file for Prettier that I don't recall creating ever, or maybe I created it once. So I'm actually going to save this as false. And here, so just by saving this. So yeah, that's kind of my setup. Oh yeah, and the other one, that's the one I mentioned, is that now that I have bubble snippets, I can create, for instance, a component, a class component, and then export this as the default. And now, as you can see here, check how nicely it even changed this thing. That's something I really like. Let's put this on the left here. And remember that we had the, I thought we had, maybe it's because I start up here. So let's start the development server once more. And this is my new component. So now you can see that it's empty, so now I can start adding stuff in there like hola or whatever, and I should be seeing changes here. I am missing something. Extending the app, that is the component, saving this, Command Shift R here. Funny that it didn't get it. So once more, I can start creating other stuff, like putting small text in here, autocomplete that, and then by saving, now you can see it is changing. So this is my setup. I hope you can get it working. And if not, let me know in the comments or send me a message on Twitter, and I will try to help you with that. Okay, thank you very much. I'll see you next time.